have been invited to apply to the EDC project fund by Mayu, Tama or Katia. You will have received the guidance, and what I'm going to do is just go through that guidance and just reiterate what is there, and hopefully that'll make things nice and clear, and then we'll do some questions and answers. So hopefully, as you all know, the EDC Project Fund, we're calling it the EDC Project Fund for Strength and Sustainability. The money comes from the National Lottery, and obviously we're working in partnership with CAN to provide you all of the support you need through the CAN capacity building officers. My job at Dorset Community Foundation is to administer the grants themselves. So I'll be receiving all the applications, reading through those applications, liaising with our decision-making panel, and then notifying you of the outcome and obviously paying grants to successful groups. So that's my job. All the support you need to apply to the fund. I think initially you'll be already talking to your capacity building officer, whether that's Maya or Katia or Tama, sorry. So have those conversations. Hopefully they'll be helping you with lots of different things, including applying to this fund. So you can talk to them about what you think you might want to apply for, whether that's suitable, how you might go about budgeting for that, understanding how much it's going to cost, and putting together the information you need for your application. But if there is a specific question about the application form itself or how to apply, what are we really asking in this question? What should I put in this tick box? Anything about the application process, I'm very happy for you to contact me direct as well. And my direct contact details are on that guidance for you. So as hopefully you are all aware, the fund is designed for community groups that serve residents in BCP. You don't have to be based in BCP yourself, but I think most of you probably are. But the main thing is that you're supporting communities within the BCP area. And it's for groups that specifically are supporting ethnically diverse communities across the BCP area. And your group should also be led by people representing those ethnically diverse groups in the area. So that's who we're aiming to support. So I'm just going through my notes here. So hopefully that's all of you in the room. We've tried to be really flexible about who we can offer support to. So some of you might have been, might be established for a few years. Some of you might be very, very new as a community group. We're hoping that pretty much everybody should have the opportunity to apply. The kind of restrictions on that is obviously we're looking to fund not-for-profit groups, so charitable community groups. So for most of you, you're probably either, if you're a new group, you might simply be a constituted community group. So you might just be a group of people that have put together a constitution and you've started to do some work in the community. And that's absolutely fine. Some of you might be charities or community interest companies, or you might be a company that has a not-for-profit clause in your governing document. All of that is fine, as long as we can see that you're not for profit and that you've formalised in some way, you've got a constitution, something that sets out who you are as a group, then you should be able to apply. And again, Katia and Tam are already helping you to formalise in those ways. Our definition of a group is that there's at least two of you running that group. So two people responsible for the activities and everything you're doing. And that's two unrelated people. So if you're a husband and wife and you're the only two, then you wouldn't quite meet the eligibility, or if you're sort of brother and sister or any other relationship. So we're looking for at least two unrelated people running the organisation. As I say, you do need to have a governing document, something that sets out what your group is all about. And there's a few other things that we ask for as well. Now, bear in mind, for newer groups, what we're saying is hopefully you might have these things in place already, but if you don't, you can still apply as long as you can confirm that you're working with your capacity building officer to get those things in place. So what we're talking about is your constitution, as I've mentioned. We're talking about a a bank account in the name of your group. I know that's been really challenging for newer groups. So if you don't have that yet, you can still apply, and we may be able to pay the grant to CAN instead if you don't have a bank account yet. The other things we ask for, and this is really common amongst all funders, so it's good practice for you to get these things in place. The other things commonly asked for are your latest accounts. That's obviously if you've been running for a year or more, your annual accounts, a safeguarding policy and an EDI policy. That's ethnically diversity and inclusion. It's a tongue twister. So if you've got those things in place, you can send them with your application. If you don't, you can simply tick a box to say, I'm working with this with my capacity building officer. So hopefully that's given a bit of flexibility for groups that are new, that don't have everything in place yet, that you can still apply. Just send what you have, and what you don't have, hopefully you're working in the background with your capacity building officer. So you can apply for up to £3,000. The grants are all around what we call capacity building. If you're not sure what that means, I will try and explain it. So we're looking to award grants that help your organisation in itself. So we're wanting to help your organisation be stronger, be more sustainable, be more efficiently run, to have more skills, to be a really well-run, really solid organisation. So what we can't fund is traditional grants that help you to run your project or your service. So it's not grants to run an event or to run sessions with your communities. This is about grants that actually help your organisation and your organisational skills. I'm sure Katia and Tammy have already told you about all of this, so hopefully you're quite clear on that. And we have put some examples in the guidance about what that might mean. So you might apply for a grant to pay for some training for your staff or your volunteers to improve their skills. You might want to spend some time with another organisation or with a consultant who can help you to develop something you need for your organisation. That might be developing your website or developing the way you monitor your outcomes, maybe developing how you keep a record of your supporters or beneficiaries on a database, anything that will help you as an organisation. And it's hard to give a really full list of what the types of things you could apply for, because of course you're all running such different services. It's going to look very different from group to group. But as long as you can say why this is something that will really help you in the long term, it will help your organisation to be stronger and more sustainable, that's what we're looking for. So other examples are around investing in new technology, maybe, and as I say, maybe hiring consultants or contractors to help with things like website development or other kind of strategies. The grant can absolutely cover your time. So if what you want to do is spend time with another organisation to maybe learn how they've done something really well that you can replicate, that might take some time for the other organisation, and you can cover their time, but it's going to take your time as well, and you can absolutely use the grant to cover your time to do that work and to spend that time on the work you need to do. So it can be for physical things, for consultants, for your time and other people's time that you're spending with. Okie dokie. So in terms of the process, and it's simple, I should have said this at the beginning, it's important to say that the application format and the process of how you apply was all co-designed with EDC groups. I think I recognise many of you, so hopefully many of you were there on the day when we talked about what you wanted the funding programme to look like, how you wanted to apply, the timeframes. We talked about all the different aspects of the programme. So hopefully those of you that helped with that co-design process, you'll see a lot of what we talked about reflected in the funding programme we've got before us. And I'm sure we'll learn along the way that we might need to make tweaks or changes. We'll try and, keep open lines of communication so that you can feed back to us your experience and anything we can improve for future applicants. So bear that in mind as well. Nothing is set in stone. But at the moment, it's grants of up to £3,000. It's all about capacity building. It's all about ethnically diverse communities. I'll just go through the process. So you can apply at any time. This fund is going to be open, for the next couple of years, but you can apply at any time that is right for you. So please don't rush into it if you're not ready. Talk to Tama, talk to Katia about, when is the right time for you to apply. But in terms of decisions, we'll have 4 set times during each year when we will look at the applications we've received so far and make a decision on those applications. Hopefully you've seen that in the guidance and it's quite clear. So this first quarter of the year, all the applications we receive by the end of March, we will get you a decision by the end of April. And then the next quarter, all the applications we then receive by the end of June, we'll get you a decision by the end of July. So hopefully it's really clear. You can apply at any time, but you know when you're going to get a decision depending on which window you've chosen to apply in. So hopefully that's nice and clear for everybody. You don't have to apply for £3,000. We're saying up to 3,000. So again, if you're quite a new group, you might just want a few £100s to buy a piece of software or whatever it might be. And that's absolutely fine. If you do choose to apply for less and you're successful, you can apply again in the same year for a second grant, maybe to take you up more towards that £3,000 maximum. So don't feel like you've got to do everything at once. If you're a really established group or you're really confident you know what you want to spend the money on and you do need £3,000, absolutely apply for £3,000. But be aware that you wouldn't be able to apply again until you've spent that grant and we're in the following year. So all groups will have up to a year to spend the grant. Some of you might spend it sooner than that. That's absolutely fine. But we're looking at a maximum of 3,000 per organisation per year. So I hope that's clear. So if you go for less, you can apply again. If you get the £3,000 straight away, you'd have to wait for the following year and report on how you've spent that initial 3,000. Hopefully, we're expecting that most groups who apply will be successful because you've had that support from your capacity building officer. You know what you need. Hopefully it's really appropriate for the fund and you should be an eligible group for the fund because you've done that work with your capacity building officer. So we really hope that the majority of groups who apply will be successful. If you're not successful, our promise is to provide you feedback as to why that is and the things that you might need to work on before you apply again. There's no time frame that we're setting for when you can apply again. If you've been unsuccessful, as far as I'm concerned, you could apply again the next week. I'd probably suggest that isn't the best thing to do because you'll want time to talk to your capacity building officer about the feedback and what we're suggesting wasn't right or that you need to improve. So we promise we will give feedback if you're unsuccessful to enable you to hopefully put in another application that will succeed. That's the idea. The whole idea of the fund, and this is shared between me, Lottery and Can, we just want to help our brilliant community groups just to be stronger and more sustainable. I've been in this job at DCF for about 10 years and it's really sad sometimes because you do see new community groups start and they've got a lot of goodwill and a lot of expertise and that they want to get it right, and in a few years some of those groups are really flourishing and some of them end up closing for various different reasons, and because it's challenging, I think, being a community group, and it's a new thing for many people when they first start. So we just want to give everybody the best chance of still being here in the future, and making sure you've got a really sustainable model and that you understand how to govern well, how to write good funding applications, how to make the most of your expertise, being really efficient with the, you know, what you have within your teams. So hopefully, you know, that's the idea. We actively want to support you all, and that's why I'm saying we hope that most people will be successful and be able to receive some money. In terms of how you apply, again, it was a request from the group that we were really flexible and gave people a choice of how they want to apply. Most funders, those of you that have applied for funding before, most of us ask groups to complete an online application form. So that option is still available for those of you that like doing online application forms. There's still a very traditional looking online application form, and the link is in the guidance. There's also a paper-based application form, if you like. So it's just on Microsoft Word. So if you would prefer to just sit, you know, at your laptop with a document and fill out the boxes on that document and then email it to us, then we've provided that as well. So it looks very similar to the online form, but it's on a Microsoft Word document, which I know some people find easier. We're also very happy for people to apply by creating a video. So that was one idea that came up. Some people prefer verbally talking than they do writing things down. So we're very happy if you want to create a short video, including all of the information that we need, and to send us that video by email. We still need a few written details, as you can imagine. We need your name and your contact details, the name of your organisation. So we do need some written details. So there's a short application form that you would need to send us along with your video, if that's how you're choosing to apply. And we've tried to give you some guidance about what to include in the video if that's the way that you choose to apply, so that the application form, if you're writing an application form or if we receive a video, we're getting similar information from both. That's the idea. So hopefully that guidance is helpful to you when you're creating your videos. And then the last option is to simply have an interview with me. And that was an idea that came up from the group as well. So again, if you prefer verbalizing about your group rather than writing things down, but you don't maybe have, you know, anybody that can video you, or you don't want to be on camera, then we can arrange to have a one-to-one interview. So I'll take you through the questions, you know, and the information that we need, and you can simply, you know, verbalise it and tell me all of that. And either we can record that, or I can keep a written record of that interview and write it up later. So that's another option as well. So hopefully you can take the one that you think will work best for you and give it a go. And I'm learning as well. So we don't usually do applications by interview. We have done applications by video before, but it's not usually very popular. So I haven't done many applications that way. So, you know, we'll all be learning together with some of these things because they're new on both sides. In terms of decision making, we're still currently building our decision-making panel. One of my very experienced trustees will chair the panel from Dorset Community Foundation. And then we will have one representative from the National Lottery, which is understandable as it's their money. We thought that was fair. But the other 4 members of the panel, we usually have 6 maximum. The other 4 members we want to be representatives of ethnically diverse communities in the local area. So the EDC project has a wider networking group that's already established. So we may have one person from that networking group, but that still leaves 3 places for other members, wider members of the EDC family. So if you haven't seen it already, we're going to start, you know, letting people know that we're actively looking for people who might want to sit on the decision panel. If you're looking to apply in this quarter, in this first quarter, you may feel it's not for you right now, but you can always come forward at a later date. And if there's lots of interest, we'll try and give different people an opportunity on different panels to be part of that. But I really recommend, if you're kind of thinking about it or you're not sure, I really recommend you do it, and just be brave and go for it. we'll be arranging one of your networking sessions that you have usually with Maya and Tamara and Katya. I'm going to come along and just talk a bit about what's involved. So I won't talk too much at this session about it, but there'll be some more information. And it's really, really good experience when you're the person writing funding applications. It's really good to sit on the other side. And actually, it gives you a lot of insight into the types of things that really stand out to panels, the types of things that confuse panels, you know, the way that it helps to verbalise things or to write things down. So it's really insightful to just belong to a decision-making panel, even if you only ever do it once or twice. I do really recommend it. So have a think about that. So the decision-making panel will receive some training, so they'll have some prep before they start in that role. And as I say, there'll be, you know, at least, you know, 2 or 3 members of the panel are likely to have lots of experience, as well as other people with more lived experience of community issues. So hopefully there'll be a good group with a mixture of different expertise. And they'll meet in person to discuss the applications that have come in. They will be the ones making the decision, and then I will, I think we've said, in fact, I will let your capacity building officer know what the outcome is. So you'll hear from Tama or Katya what the outcome is. I think we felt, or the group felt, that was the best way to do it. And then, as I say, you'll have a year to spend the grant. Some of you might not need a full year, others of you might need that full year. And then all we ask is that you let us know how you spent the grant and what difference it's made for you. I'm still designing a format for that, but we'll try and keep it fairly informal. But we do obviously want to hear from you. You know, how has the grant helped your organisation? Do you feel stronger? Do you think you know, if you did a training course, was it good? Did it give you the skills you wanted? You know, it's just really good to hear how the grants have been helpful. So we will be asking for some sort of feedback as well when you've had the grant. I've probably spoken for more than my 5 or 10 minutes, which is what I always do. So I'm going to stop talking now. And the important thing is for you to just feel really, really free to ask any questions or queries. If you're thinking about it or wanting to ask it, someone else probably is as well, whether they're in this room or they're listening to the recording. So please just fire away and ask me anything that is unclear or that you're not sure of.
Thank you very much, Ellie, for that presentation. I think it was very clear. I hope everybody agrees with me on that. There is one question that Olga and Yaroslava asked as we were going along, and they typed it on the chat, which is related to what they can apply for if it's not on the list. And they asked if they could, you know, discuss it now here with you if it could be covered. So I'll leave it to you guys, Olga and Yaroslava, if you want to ask directly to Ellie.
Hello, everybody. Yes, honestly speaking, maybe we got a little bit confused. We were thinking about covering the cost of the course. The idea is to take the course for dyslexia. As we are a school, it's very important nowadays, and we have so many children with this type of an issue, and it would be nice to get the course, but it's not particular in this list, and I would like to ask if it is possible to get this covered, or for example the expenses for the rent.
So is this a course for the children, or is it a course to help you to teach the children?
Yes, this is the course for teachers, of course, yes, to work with this type of issue with the students, of course.
I think potentially it's an interesting one. So if it was for the children, if it was, you know, to deliver something to benefit the children, then we'd be saying no, because the grants aren't about your delivery of services, they're about your organisation. But I think if within your team you're lacking some of the skills you need to do a really good job delivering your service, I think potentially that would be okay. I think you'd need to show that hopefully the people that are receiving that training are going to stay in the organisation for a length of time, so that it won't be, you know, if you were just training somebody to deliver one service and then that's it, I think it would probably be unlikely to succeed. But if it's core volunteers and staff members that are a core part of your team, and those new skills are going to help you as an organisation in the longer term, then I think potentially it is something that you could cover. And then the other things you could think about is any other ways that you could enhance that particular service. So have you got a really good way of measuring the impact of so when you train that when you do that training with the children, do you have really good ways of measuring the impact on the children? Because in the future, when you want to apply to other funders to fund that activity with the children, it's really important to show that it's making a difference to the children. So as well as maybe enhancing your skills to deliver the training, think about other ways that you can enhance that service for your organisation. So think about, is there something you could do to learn how to measure the outcomes of that? And how do you do that? How do you record it? Do you have a database? You know, think about the wider aspects of it. And again, I think that will enhance your likelihood of receiving a grant. If you're not just thinking about how do we deliver the training course, you're actually thinking a bit wider than that. How do we make this a really core part of the organisation? How do we strengthen future funding bids to get more funding for this work? That will really improve your chances of being successful. Does that make sense?
Yeah, as I understand correctly, so it depends on how I would organize it, how I would apply, what exactly I will tell, because yeah, it's for teachers to work with children with dyslexia, so it's for the teachers. So could be covered, but
yeah,
no
if they're are the teachers on your kind of committee or your trustee board? I don't know your structure, so I might be using the wrong language. Yeah,
yes.
so these
Yeah, and I would like to speak about just about myself. I would like to take this course to understand how to work with such issue in the class.
yeah, I think if they're core members of your team, because we're expecting that most of the grants will benefit your core sort of management team. So if you're a charity, they might be your trustees or your core volunteer team. So as I say, if the teachers are kind of if they come and go within the organisation,
no, they are there, and
so they're your core team. Yeah. Yeah,
okay.
so I think that's fine. So if you need to enhance their skills so that you can deliver a stronger service, then I think that's fine to offer that training. But as I say, try and go one step beyond that. So not only how can you deliver a good training course for the children, how do you measure the impact of that course on the children? How do you keep a record of that? How do you write a strong funding bid for that service? We're trying to think about long-term sustainability. So yes, strengthen the service, but also strengthen how you monitor that service, how you record that service, how you promote it potentially, and all of those additional things as well. And then that would become a really strong bid then.
Okay, and one more question about the expenses. If we are talking about the expenses for the rent, can it be covered by the grant? Because it's about also the structure, the building capacity, etc.
I don't think just rent. Is this rent for your office space or?
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I would call a core cost. So it's something you need for your organisation. I would say you're better off applying to another more traditional funding programme. This is particularly about helping to enhance what you're doing, to strengthen what you're doing, to make it more sustainable. Whereas rent is just an ongoing cost that you will always need. If we award you a grant for your rent for the next 6 months, it's not necessarily going to make you a stronger, better organisation. Do you see what I mean? So I don't think that would hit the criteria for this funding programme. But Tama and Katia, as part of their role within CAN, Community Action Network, hopefully they would be able to talk to you about a more appropriate funder for a core cost like that. And in time, hopefully they'd be able to support you to apply to a different funder. So the National Lottery, for example, they're very happy with core costs, and they have funding programs that you could apply for that type of thing. But for this one, just bear in mind, anything that you ask for money for, you've got to be able to demonstrate how that will make you stronger, more sustainable, more skills, and a better organization. That's what you've got to be able to show.
Got you, because we are not like a young group. We have been working for a while, for a long time, and basically we have all of these things. Maybe some of the groups, they don't have them yet, but we have, and we are interested in other things. So you would recommend waiting for another grant to apply for, am I right?
Yeah, if it's for core
Okay.
costs for ongoing services, I would look at lottery awards for all. I would look at, well, there's lots of funders. I think, as I say, Katya and Tamia hopefully can link you in with Louise and other colleagues at CAN who are specialist about identifying the right funders for the right projects. So definitely talk to them about that.
Okay, thank you for answering. Thank you.
Sure. Anyone
Just to
else? The
jump
floor is
in,
open.
yeah, just to jump in and say that Tama has typed in as you guys were talking, and yeah, she was indeed suggesting awards for all lottery funding. So depending on yeah, the different costs and the different funding, then there are other funders. So yeah, Olga and Yaroslava, you definitely have a chat to Tama about these more specific questions. Thank you. Rob has his hand up over there.
I just saw that
Hi,
same time
Rob.
you
Yeah.
did.
Yeah, it's good, isn't it? Me and technology. I need training, clearly. Yeah, a number of groups, I know it's going to be the same for Linda, this is that we are a group of volunteers from various organisations. We don't have a fixed address for our organisation.
Okay.
So that certainly is probably going to trip us up for a bank account. We need to think about how we deal with that, both short term, but more particular long term, I guess. But we do have a group email, so we do have an identity, if you like, as a group through the email address. And the question is really, how do we kind of get round that with you?
Most small community groups that we know, you know, the vast majority of groups we fund at Dorset Community Foundation don't have an office space as their address. I think most groups, you know, one of the founders or one of the core members of the groups is happy to use their personal address. That is usually how it works. So most of the time with the bank account, as long as the bank account name is your organisation, the address where the bank statements are sent may well be a private address.
Okay.
And I know that can be tricky because then sometimes people don't always want their address in the public domain. But unfortunately, if you're a community group, there does need to be a level of public transparency. So there is usually an address. Certainly, if you were to register with the Charity Commission in the fullness of time, you would have to have an address as part of your record on the Charity Commission website. So I say for many small community groups, it does end up being one of the trustees' own addresses, unless I'm also aware, correct me if I'm wrong, Mayu, but we sometimes have small community groups who put their address as care of Community Action Network. And I believe that CAN are willing to do that for a handful of community groups if nobody wants their address to be in the public domain or on a bank statement. So that might be a conversation to have with Mayu as well, to see whether Community Action Network are happy for you to be a care of address.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you.
I think Maria's next.
Hello, everyone. I actually have a question quite close to what Yaroslava has, but a little bit from different perspective. As in the relic, I want to cover the emotional and well-being state of the community. And then I thought about the course, which is immigrants-related psychological course. And is me who want to take that. Yeah, and then you started, Ellie, to tell that you need to show the proof how it's was applied. Yeah, for example, I think, okay, after this course, I can have a group, yeah, like weekly or monthly group with people. And then if I measure like their how you cannot measure the emotional state, but like have a questionnaire in the beginning, yeah, and have a questionnaire in the end, like what, like for example, what skills they got, how they feel better, and everything. That could be proof for you that worked, or if you have different ideas of how to see that this course was really needed.
So again, it's kind of on the edge, I would say. So if you're saying that, yeah, I'm trying to think of the best way to put this. So the purpose of the grants is to make you organisationally stronger, so that you're more likely to still be here in 10 years' time. I think if within your core team you genuinely lack skills to do a good job, I think it's okay to ask for money towards a training course to improve your skills, to do a better job with your beneficiaries. I think that's okay. But again, it's thinking wider than that. So to be a good community group is not just about delivering a fantastic service to your users. I know that sounds weird, but it's not.
Exactly.
Being a really strong community group means that you know how to write a really good funding bid, that you know how to keep really strong records, that so that you can look back over 10 years and you can see the different emerging needs of your community. Being a good community group, you know, means networking really well with other community groups, understanding what other people are doing, developing referral routes. There are so many aspects to being a good community group. And yes, we want you to deliver really good sessions with your beneficiaries, but this fund is more about those wider things. So I think if it's about a training course for you to do a better job with beneficiaries, that's okay. But I would encourage you to think about what are the other things we need to do as a community group to make that service really strong in the future, to make it more sustainable. How do we build an income stream for that service that isn't just grants? How do we generate, you know, public donations towards that service? How do we keep a really good record of the impact that service is happening? All of these things you need to do, as well as just delivering the day-to-day sessions. So that's what I encourage all of you to think about. So yes, training for your core team, your core volunteers and staff is fine, but try and add to that. Try and think, well, what else do we need? Because what we don't want to do is to fund you for a training course that makes your next 6 months a bit better. We want to award a grant that actually makes your next 5 or 10 years stronger and more sustainable. I know that's really ambitious, but you know, we're nothing without ambition, are we? So so just try and think even wider than just the training course if you can. And Maya and Tama and Katia are there to help you think in that wider capacity. You know, is there another community group doing something similar to you that does it really well and has been really successful with fundraising? Spend time with them. How did they do that? How did they build the relationships with those funders? How did they build that impact measurement protocol within their organization? You know, it's just think wider.
And one more question. Then you told okay, that that could the funding could be spent to cover the time we are spending for that, but not the events. That you meant, like, I cannot cover my time, then I'm providing the services for the community, but I can cover the time then I spend for the organization of community.
Yes, so we can't fund your time to run your service with your beneficiary. So if you're running a session or an event with the people you support, that's what we can't fund. But if you're going to spend time doing a training course, I mean, a training course might be a half-day training course, in which case you can ask for your time to cover that half day. Or as I say, if you're spending time with a consultant to help you to develop something for your organisation, again, you can charge for your time as well as for that consultant's time. So if it's just think about what you're asking us to fund, and whether that will make you a stronger, more sustainable organisation. If it's just about your general office costs or your general work, that's something you need on an ongoing basis. So it's probably not for this fund. But if you're able to say, by funding me to spend 20 hours doing this piece of work, my organisation will be more skilled, will be stronger, will have a new income stream. That's what we're looking for, is how to give you a one-off grant that actually strengthens you in the longer term. If it's not clear, tell me, because I'll try again.
No. It's clear. I just already know, like, proceeding.
Yeah. And bear in mind that there are local funders that want to fund ongoing work, and we're one of them. We have different funding programs during the year that fund core costs, that might fund events, that might fund, you know, a set of 12 sessions with beneficiaries. Those sort of grants are quite traditional, so you should be able, if you're eligible, you should be able to apply for those sorts of things. The joy of this fund is that it's different. It's actually saying, just take a step back from your day-to-day work and just have a think about, what are the things in my organization that we don't have yet? Do we have somebody who's really good with numbers, who's really good at keeping financial records, who really understands how to budget well, how to monitor financial, I'm just trying to think of things on the top of my head. Those are the sorts of skills gaps that you can try and address with this fund. Normally a grant for your services and your core costs is very traditional, and hopefully you'll be successful with those types of grants. It's not often that you can actually ask for a grant to just help you as an organisation. We could really do something with somebody who's really good at events fundraising. We don't have anybody who enjoys that type of thing. Why not put somebody on a training course about running a successful fundraising event, starting a charity shop? I don't know, it could be anything, couldn't it? But it's not often that you can ask a funder for those sorts of things. Most of the time, funders want to support activities with your beneficiaries. That's what's exciting. But it's really important that you spend time just on yourselves and on your organisational structure. So make the most of it whilst it's here, because, we've got it for this couple of years. And, hopefully it will be really meaningful because it's different.
Thank you.
Who's next? Linda?
So, Ellie, this is actually referring to something Rob said. It's not a question, it's just something I know. One of the committees of which I'm chair has a business account, a charity account, and it does use my private address with no problem whatsoever. I just wanted to share that.
Thanks, Linda. Yeah, it's quite a common model. You've just got to have somebody who's happy to be that person to have that address. And always be careful as well that if not many groups don't, but if you do register with Charity Commission or Companies House, make sure that address is the same address that's on your bank account. If anything changes, they've got to match up. And sometimes people fall foul of funding applications because addresses are different on different documents. So that's always worth knowing as well.
And I don't know how to put my hand down now.
I think you just click the same.
Click on the hand again.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, Katia.
Hi. So yes, my question is, well, it's not a question at the moment. It's just like a complimentary company about complimentary comment about Maria and Olga and the ladies' activities. So basically, as far as I understand, they are talking about the complementary school for kids and they teach like heritage language. So this is a very common question. We have a certain number of groups that they work with heritage language here in BCP. And I had this type of question as well about the neurodiversity kids, because it seems to be a very common issue with the school. So they are not knowing how to deal with neurodiversity kids and be inclusive. So I think the aim of the course is just to be inclusive school, complementary school. As it seems to be a very common issue, I believe we can just join together and maybe have a consultant in our
Yeah.
list, that maybe we can just like have one course for everyone, not like a separated one. I'm gonna have a word with Mayo after the meeting and with Tama, and then we see if we can have like one I don't know, one session about neurodiverse kids on how we can handle them for
That would be a
everyone
good
else.
idea.
Yes, because
Yeah.
it's a common question. It's not only one group that is raising this question. So maybe if you can just do it together, and then we can perhaps use the money for the grant for something else.
Yeah, it's a good idea. Yeah, if we can maximize, costs, that's always a good thing, isn't it? And actually, it's something that's coming up for us at the moment. I just the other week had an application from an organisation in North Dorset, actually, an organisation that works with children and families, and they were saying the same thing. There's such an increase in referrals for young people who are neurodiverse or parents that are neurodiverse.
Yes.
And if you lack those skills in your team, you kind of feel that, are we really doing the best possible job we can? And are we giving them the environment that they can thrive in, and all of those things? So it was a very similar, and they'd asked for some money towards some training for that. So yeah, it's coming up for us as well. It's an interesting one. I wish I
Yes.
knew the right organisation to signpost you to for that type of training. But I
There are a
don't know
few
that I
out
do.
there. I know a few
Are
of
there?
them, and yes, I know a few of
Brill.
them here in BCP. So I'm gonna have a talk and then see what they can deliver for us
Yeah.
and see if
And
they can
what
help.
I would maybe suggest is that I think you can do so much in a classroom setting, if you like. So if they can deliver a training course with 2 or 3 of the groups, fantastic. But then maybe think about whether they could actually spend some one-to-one time and actually visit the groups independently on top of that.
Yes.
And if there's enough money within the grant to do that, that might be really good as well. So do the basic training together to save costs, but then still, it might be helpful for each of the groups to have some one-to-one time at their organisation, just to kind of cover any nuances that are particular to their groups, maybe.
Sure. So then I have another question. This came from another group that they couldn't be here. So basically, they asked me if they can apply within the grant for the time they are using to attend certain trainings. Like for example, we are offering at CAN, we are offering a series of trainings. So they asked me if they could apply for the time for attending those trainings.
Yeah, I don't see why not. Maya, what do you think on that? I think the lottery would be very happy with that.
Yeah, I discussed this briefly with Katya the other day, and we said that it would be a good idea to bring it up in our next partnership meeting, because obviously that could be the case for most groups, right? That attend
Yeah.
workshops, and it obviously would be to be retrospective attendance as well, if you see what I mean. So it could be tricky because it could be like they would say these are all the workshops we have attended, and we are
Right.
wanting to request this time back, if that makes sense.
I think usually we don't award retrospective grants. So if you've
I
already
see.
done it and paid for it
I
and it's
see.
done, we wouldn't
I see.
normally offer a
I
retrospective.
see.
But if there's a course coming up, and I guess we need to just ask groups to just be really, really honest, really. We are in the voluntary sector after all. It's perfectly normal for somebody to go on a training course because they want to, and that they can give that time to the organisation. But if genuinely, you need to be paid for that time, maybe, your role within your organization is your paid role, and you just simply, can't afford to do things without being paid for that, then that's fine as well. I think hopefully there'll be a mixture, but if people genuinely can't afford to do a piece of work or to go on a training course without their time being covered, I think what we're saying is, please feel that you can put that within your application. But equally, if you
It's
have a
just
team
because,
of
most people, the community work is just like the second work, or it's just something that they do on their spare time. So certain people need to take holidays, or they need to take time off of work to attend the trainings, and that's why.
Yeah, in which
Yeah,
case, absolutely, I really want people to feel that they can, account for their time. I think it will be different for different groups and for different people and whether they can volunteer or not. But we trust you on that. And I think, we'll be led by you on what you need to do the work that you're describing.
Yes. So just one thing, because Tama has a question, but Angelica had her hands
up
raised.
first.
So if you can just ask after Angelica, if you can ask on Tama's behalf.
You mean me or Angelica?
No, Angelica is the next one, and then after
Yeah,
Angelica,
we
maybe we
will
can
ask.
ask Tama's question.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say, that I know Tama has a question, but Angelica is first.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great. I'm not really good with this team, to be honest. Sorry.
No,
We are all
loud.
learning.
So yeah, normally it's Zoom, all the time. So just to clarify for myself, with this funding. So basically, we are a very new group and we need kind of everything to set up and just move forward with our organization. So we need to pay for the people who will help us to create the website, to make a logo. So this is kind of included in the grant, as long as I understand. Also, our volunteers, they will need, I would say, kind of like standard training courses to work with the kids, like DBS, like first aid. So this could be covered as well, as long as I understand. And also, such a things like, for example, laptops, all the software for the laptops, like, I don't know, Windows, antiviruses, screens, which we need as an absolutely new organization, and we don't have anything. Can we apply for that? Because to be honest, I mean, it's impossible to work without laptop and create anything, but we don't have the money for that. We can't buy it, which is, I'm just using my own one, what I mean? So if that's kind of part of this grant.
Definitely website, logo, because that's about you as an organization. And, everyone needs a website these days. You might not have the skills to develop that. So I think getting somebody in to help you develop that website or to give you the skills to develop your own website, I think that's perfect. Laptops is an interesting one. I mean, to be honest, it's very normal for a small community group to spend its first 2 or 3 years using personal laptops. I think that's just the way the voluntary sector works. I think if you're asking for a laptop because you need it to deliver services, I don't know. I think it would depend how you described it, really. As I say, we're not wanting to award grants that help you to deliver a service in the next year. We're wanting to award grants that strengthen your organisation and your skills for the next 5 or 10 years. So I think it depends how you couch it, really. I think really if these are set-up costs that you need to start running services, you might be better going to a more traditional funder to look for that type of thing. Yeah, I feel like there's more grey areas than I thought there were, Mayu.
Well, to be honest, even just to kind of like do the training, because most of the trainings now are online. So just like to get like 3-4 volunteers who wants to do first aid, for example, we just need one laptop to sit down and just listen to the presentation. Okay, like I'll say like this. So, and we don't have this laptop,
Yeah, I mean, I think at the end of the day, with all funding, and I wrote funding applications for about 10 years before this job, if you don't ask, you don't get. And I think, if you want to, put it down in there, and then it will be up to the panel to decide. But what you need to do is to try and describe why the thing you're requesting is important for your kind of wider organisation. So, and in that long-term kind of benefit. I certainly think, the website, the logo, absolutely. Basic training for volunteers, I think is fine. If you're such a new group, you do want volunteers that you've invested in. They're more likely to stay in your organisation if you've given them that investment and that time. So if it's about investing in the skills of your volunteers so that they stay with you on a longer term basis, I think actually that's fine for a new organisation. The laptop, I think I'm more a question mark, but I think it's just one of those where you've got to make a strong case as possible in your bid, and it will be up to the panel. whether that's something that they feel comes under the capacity building umbrella. I think without you sort of talking for the next 5 minutes about what you need it for, it's hard for me to say a yes or no. And I'm certainly not the decision maker. I don't have a seat on the panel. I'll attend in an advisory capacity because I might have been the person doing an interview with the group, but I don't get a vote, if you like. So it's not me making the decisions. So sometimes, and I think this is one of them, it's hard for me to advise you. But if you've got enough within that 3,000 to put it in, then go for it. If there's a number of different things and you're not sure which of them is the best thing to apply for within the £3,000 limit, that's where hopefully Tama and Katia can help you to say, do you know what, of those 5 things, I think these 3 things are more likely to succeed. And I'm sure that, they'll be able to help you with that.
Yes,
Yeah,
can I just add?
sorry. Also, the question is about public liability insurance, which we need, like the organization, but can it be included in that grant?
Again, I'm not sure, because that's just a core thing you need to run your service. It's not about developing you as a stronger organization. I mean, it feels to me like you probably need, a startup grant, a traditional startup grant from a funder. And there are funders out there that enjoy supporting newer groups to get them going, and they like to kind of take a punt on a newer group. And quite often you might call it a pilot. We've got these ideas, we need to do it for 6 months as a pilot, learn from that, develop the best model for our organization to take forward. And it feels to me like you probably need to think about a traditional funder for your startup costs, but certainly things like website logo, volunteer training,
for the training, like social media, for example. We need
Yeah.
someone who will just help us to create the good quality social media, so we can pay for
Perfect.
that one as well to someone.
Yeah.
From this
Yeah,
grant.
that's much more along the right lines, because if you can invest in a really good social media volunteer that's going to hopefully, I mean, you never know, but hopefully they'll stay with you for a number of years.
Absolutely.
That will massively strengthen your organization, because it's all about online. So yeah, that sounds much more the sort of thing.
Yeah, thank you for this clarification. Yeah, lovely, thank you very much.
No worries.
Ellie, Tama had exactly the same question, so that's
Yes.
covered about the public liability insurance, but also DBS. So I would say the DBS check is a bit slightly the same case, isn't it? It's like more a core aspect
It
of the
probably is, but
organization.
it's also a very low cost. I think DBS checks are about £25, aren't they? Last time I did one at DCF. So I think if it's low cost, I'd bung it in and see if the panel go for it. That's probably what I would do. Something like a laptop, depending on how high tech a laptop you are, it's quite expensive. So I think, yeah, you've got to make a case for this. But as I say, I think we're all learning here, and I think it will be for the panel to decide whether what you've applied for is capacity building or if it's a general core cost. And I think that's going to be up to them. Life's not simple, is it? And nothing's ever completely black and white, and some of these things will be in a grey area. But that's why we have a decision panel. They will want to make the best use of the money, and that it's as close to the remit that we've been given as possible. So they will be looking at, is this a capacity building grant? And they will be looking at that closely. But I think there's always discretion, especially around cost. DBS is such a low cost. If you're bringing on new volunteers and they need to be DBS checked, I would kind of argue potentially you could put that as a capacity building cost, especially because it's a low cost.
So would you say, before we move on to the next question, just to summarize this aspect, when it comes to grey areas like this ones that we've mentioned, would you sort of advise to maybe add it on with a very strong case, but without a high expectation that it could be that they might not be accepted, but people can still try or justify it in a way?
Yeah, I think it's, as I say, it's up to the groups to explain why this will help the organisation in the long term. We don't just want to help your services in the next 6 months. It's about long term, and it's up to you to describe why you think that's the case, and that's what the panel will be looking at. As I say, I think quite often you've got a kind of wish list of funding, don't you? You need funding for A, B, C, D, and E. And I think if you can put all of those within a £3,000 application, I kind of think, why not? The panel might only fund 2 or 3 out of your 5 requests if that's what they feel is the strongest thing to fund. That's fine. But if you've got too many things on your wish list to put within the 3,000, that's where I think you need to be, getting that advice from Katia or Tama. And if they're not sure, ask me as well, and we'll try and advise you which things are most appropriate for the fund.
Thank you. I think there is one more question from Abhishek. I hope that I've pronounced your name right.
Yeah. Hi, hi everyone.
Hi.
Question. I think you might have touched it. So we've literally launched our website last week.
Oh no.
Yeah, and we also launched a community radio channel as well for our Asian community out here. It can be anyone. Now, can this fund be used to enhance those websites and community radio? Because obviously when you are talking to community radio, you adding on new presenters all the time, and there's an added cost of buying softwares and licenses for them as well. Can this fund be used for those kind of things?
Definitely the website, because I think, as I say, without a strong website, you're not going to get anywhere these days. Everybody's looking for things online. So I think definitely the website. Is the radio show, is that part of your kind of core, is that what your organization does, or is that how you promote the organization?
No, we do a lot of things. We used to run a radio show in past, but that was through Hot Radio. And obviously, but they were charging us a lot of money, and we didn't have that kind of money to run that show.
Yeah.
So we're relaunching it now again, and we had a little bit of fund available for that to launch that radio show.
Yeah.
But obviously, to keep it running sustainably and growing as well, we will always need funds as well to maintain that radio channels and to buy softwares and things like that as well.
Yeah.
And same for the website as well, where we are constantly developing it to make it more user friendly and updating it on an annual basis. And somebody else is using it. If somebody else we're using external company to actually help so that they can maintain the website as well. So obviously that kind of funds, can we use those things, those funds?
Yeah, I mean, it might, if you're at the stage where you're constantly spending money on somebody else to do your website for you, I guess, in an ideal world, if you had a volunteer or a staff member who was interested in actually trying to take that on as part of their role, maybe put them on a website development course. I don't know if that's way too ambitious or whether that's possible, but I would say, we'd prefer to upskill your organisation than give you money that will just improve the website for 1 year, and then you're just going to need to pay out the money again the next year and again the next year. If you can actually build that skill within your own team, you're going to save money in the long term. So maybe think about that when it comes to the website. I think with the radio show, if it's part of the service you're delivering, if that's part of how you support your community, the ongoing costs of running it might not be right for this fund, because that's an ongoing service. If we give you a bit of money, it might run the radio show for 6 months, and then you're just going to be looking for more funding again. So that might not be the right ask. But what you could do is think about, how do we raise money in a more sustainable way for that radio show? So is there something you can do within your organisation or through the radio to start testing out a new way to generate income? That would be for this fund, because if you get it right, you're going to have a better income stream moving forward. So again, talk to the guys at CAN. If other organisations have found really good ways of self-generating income, could you maybe use the grant to invest in some time or some expertise to maybe try and generate a different income stream? Because the trouble with grants is, you're constantly hand to mouth, aren't you? They come 1 minute and then they're gone the next. And it may be that that's the sort of thing you could use this fund for. There are other funders that might want to fund your ongoing costs of your services, but maybe with this grant you could use it to actually try and think about a longer term strategy for it. I know it's really challenging, but I think sometimes, as I say, it's so rare that you get these grants where, you know, and if it doesn't succeed, it doesn't succeed, but at least you've given something a try. And there are really creative ways. I see it all the time because we know so many groups. Groups come up with these amazing creative ways of generating income. And it's, you know, it can be, you know, really, really fascinating. And you want to get to a point where you've got a quarter of your income comes from, I don't know, client contributions, a quarter comes from grants, a quarter comes from an annual fundraising event or a sponsorship, a quarter comes from local businesses. You know, you want that variety. So if you don't currently have that in your organisation and you're just constantly chasing grants, that's maybe the thing to think about for this fund. Invest some of your own time and maybe bring in some external expertise to try and put the work in now to try and develop a different income stream.
Good to know. Thank you.
I know it's really challenging, everything that I'm saying, but again, you know, we're not going to hold you to, you know, the success. We just want to award grants that have a good chance of helping you to strengthen those things.
Are there any other questions from anyone in the room, guys? Anything we may have not covered or something that came up to your mind now? I was just checking my list of questions that, you know, have come out in the past in previous conversations. So with Tam and Katin, I think we've covered everything. At least that was on my list.
Good. Well, I'm still available, you know, to speak to. I say my contact details are there in the guidance. If anybody wants to talk to me one-to-one, you know, you've got your team at CAN there to support you as well. And I think just give it a go. I think that's the message, isn't it? Just give it a try.
Yeah.
You know, talk to your capacity building officer. You don't have to apply in this quarter. You can apply any time during the year when you're ready. It may be for some of you that actually you need a more traditional grant sooner than you'll be ready to apply to this particular fund. It might be more vital for you at the moment to get one of those, you know, traditional grants for your services, and then come to us when you've got a bit more time to think about your organisational strength. It's going to be different for everybody. But I hope to see an application from everybody at some point.
Brilliant. And also, like Ellie mentioned earlier, as a reminder, this is obviously not the only round. We've got more rounds coming up. As other rounds come up, there will also be other sessions. So we have scheduled, as you can see in the guidance, other Meet the Funders with Ellie in the future as well. So this is not just the only opportunity to speak to her or to, you know, raise questions. If more questions come up, you know, there will be other rounds and other Meet the Funders sessions.
Absolutely. It's exciting just to get going, isn't it? Yeah.
Thank both of you for organising this. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for coming, guys, for taking the time, making the effort to come. We know it's not easy, you know, and time is precious. So thank you so much for giving us your time today and your questions.
Right. Thank you, Maya.
Brilliant.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Ellie, so much for being
Thank
as
you very
well.
much.
So fantastic.
Oh, you wanted to talk to me about something else, didn't you?
Yes.
So I'll stay on.
Brilliant. I'll stop the recording for the people who are going to be watching so they just see the important part. So stop recording now.